The stars looked different through the sensor screens of the Galactic Council ship Eternal Watch. Commander Velthar studied the readings with growing confusion. His blue-scaled fingers moved across the control panel as he tried to make sense of what his instruments were telling him. "This cannot be right," he muttered in his native tongue. The energy readings from the third planet's orbit showed something massive, something that should not exist in this forgotten corner of space. Scout Captain Nixandra floated beside him, her tentacles wrapped around a datapad. "Commander, I have run the scans 5 times. The readings are correct. There is a structure in orbit around the third planet that measures over 15 kilometers in length." Velthar's eyes narrowed. He had been exploring unknown systems for the Galactic Council for over 30 years. He knew what primitive worlds looked like. According to their records, this system contained a species called humans who had barely learned to split atoms. They were supposed to be hundreds of years away from building anything that could survive in space. "Show me the historical data again," Velthar ordered. The main screen filled with information about the Sol system. The last official survey had been conducted 200 years ago by a Council exploration team. The report described humans as aggressive but technologically backward. They used chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Their most advanced weapons used nuclear fission. The Council had marked them as a species to check on again in a few hundred years. "Perhaps our sensors are picking up an asteroid," suggested Communications Officer Theknar from his station. "The humans might have moved one into orbit for mining." Nixandra's tentacles curled in disagreement. "No asteroid produces this energy. Signature. This reads like an artificial construct with active power systems. The energy output is enormous." Velthar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. If the humans had somehow developed advanced technology, it could change everything. The Galactic Council's expansion plans for this sector assumed Earth would eventually become another client world. Primitive species always did. "Send a priority message to Fleet Admiral Kethmore," Velthar decided. "Tell him we need a proper diplomatic contact fleet, and tell him the humans may not be as primitive as we thought." 3 days later, Admiral Kethmore arrived with 12 ships of the 3rd Diplomatic Fleet. His flagship, the Council's Will, was a massive vessel designed to impress newly contacted species. The Admiral himself was a veteran of first contact situations. He had brought 47 primitive worlds into the Council's protection over his long career. Kethmore studied the same readings that had puzzled Velthar. The massive construct in Earth's orbit was clearly artificial. Its energy signature was unlike anything in Council databases, but the Admiral had seen stranger things. "Commander Velthar, you worry too much," Kethmore said during their meeting. "Yes? The humans have built something large. But size does not equal advancement. Perhaps they have learned to hollow out asteroids. Perhaps they have built a crude space station. We will approach, make contact, and bring them into the Council as planned." Velthar wanted to argue, but Admiral Kethmore had already made his decision. The fleet would approach Earth using standard first contact procedures. They would make peaceful contact, demonstrate Council technology, and invite the humans to join galactic civilization under Council guidance. It had worked thousands of times before. The 12 Council ships moved toward Earth in formation. Their hulls gleamed with advanced metals. Their weapons were powered down but ready. Their shields hummed with energy that could stop asteroid impacts. To any primitive species, they would look like the ships of gods. As they approached, the massive construct became clearer on their sensors. It was not a space station. It was a ship. The largest ship any of them had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray metal that seemed to absorb sensor beams. Strange projections and structures covered its surface. Most disturbing of all, it was clearly built for war. "Admiral," reported sensor specialist Kliktar, "the construct is definitely a warship. I count hundreds of weapon ports along its hull. The armor plating is at least 3 meters thick. This is not a peaceful vessel." Admiral Kethmore frowned. The humans had built a warship larger than anything in the Council fleet, but size did not equal capability. Their own ships had technology refined over thousands of years. Whatever weapons the humans had mounted on their giant ship, they could not compare to Council plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. "Open communication channels," The Admiral ordered. Use standard first contact frequencies. Let us see what these humans have to say for themselves. On board the human warship, Captain Dae-hyun sat in his command chair watching the alien fleet approach. The bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath was a study in calm efficiency. His crew moved with practiced precision, monitoring dozens of different systems. 12 ships in standard diplomatic formation, reported Tactical Officer Jin Woo. Their weapons are powered down, but their shields are active. Classic first contact approach. Dae-hyun nodded. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Ever since Earth's deep space monitoring stations had first detected alien communications, the human government had been planning. They knew this day would come. What do our intelligence files tell us about their fleet composition? Dae-hyun asked. Intelligence Director Hye-won consulted her displays. 1 heavy cruiser, 3 light cruisers, 8 escort frigates. Standard. Galactic Council diplomatic formation based on observed patterns. The heavy cruiser matches the design of vessels we have identified as Zephyrian Empire construction. Communications Officer Boram turned from her station. Captain, we are receiving transmissions on multiple frequencies, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic scientific constants, standard first contact protocol. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. The aliens were following exactly the procedures humanity had observed them using with other newly contacted species. They expected to find primitive humans who might barely understand their signals. Boram, respond using quantum communications. Use perfect galactic standard language. Tell them they have entered Terran defensive space, and ask them to state their intentions. Boram's fingers moved across her controls. The message was transmitted instantly across space using quantum entanglement technology. On the alien ships, communication officers suddenly found their equipment receiving signals on frequencies they had not expected primitives to know existed. Admiral Kethmore stared at the message on his screen. It was written in perfect galactic standard, the common language used by all council species. The humans should not have known this language existed, much less mastered it. The message was also transmitted using quantum communication technology that most council worlds had only recently adopted. How do they know our language? Whispered Communications Officer Teknar. The Admiral had no answer. In all his years of first contact, primitive species had never been able to communicate so clearly and immediately. They usually required weeks of mathematical exchanges before basic concepts could be shared. Send a reply, Kethmore decided. Tell them we are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome Earth into the galactic community. Request permission to send a diplomatic party to meet with their planetary leadership. The response came back within minutes. The human captain politely declined to allow landing parties. He stated that he had full authority to speak for humanity in matters of first contact. He suggested that all negotiations take place in space, for everyone's safety. The phrase bothered Admiral Kethmore. For everyone's safety. It sounded almost like a threat. But surely these humans, no matter how large their ship, could not threaten a council fleet. On the Titan's Wrath, Captain Dae-hyun was receiving constant updates from his officers. Chief Science Officer Min-ji had been scanning the alien vessels, with sensors far more advanced than anything the council possessed. Their technology is about what we expected, Min-ji reported. Fusion reactors for power, plasma weapons, kinetic barriers for defense, roughly equivalent to our technology from 30 years ago. Engineering Chief Soo-jin nodded from her station. Their ships show signs of modular construction, probably, built in orbital shipyards with limited manufacturing capability. Our intelligence estimates were correct. Dae-hyun studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet. Each ship was highlighted with detailed information about its capabilities. The humans had been watching and learning about council technology for decades. They knew exactly what they were facing. Sir, Jin Woo called out, the alien ships are changing formation. They are spreading out and taking positions around us. On the council flagship, Admiral Kethmore was growing frustrated. The humans were not following standard first contact procedures. They refused to allow diplomatic missions. They showed no signs of awe at council technology. Most importantly, they showed no signs of submission. Perhaps we need to remind them who they are dealing with, the Admiral said to his senior staff. Power up weapons and shields. Move into intimidation formation. Show them the consequences of refusing Council authority. It was a standard tactic. When primitive species prove stubborn, a show of force usually convinced them to be more reasonable. The sight of advanced weapons and shields had brought countless worlds into line. The rescue operation took 6 hours. During that time, Admiral Kethmore watched in growing amazement as the human ship provided assistance that his own vessels could not match. Their sensors could locate individual escape pods from impossible distances. Their medical scans could determine the health of survivors through the pod walls. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly how Council life support systems worked. Admiral, reported Chief Medical Officer Zelthar, the humans have transmitted detailed medical data about our rescued crew members. They know our biology. They know our medical needs. This information should have taken years of study to acquire. Kethmore felt another chill. How long had the humans been watching them? How much did they know about Council technology and biology? His tactical mind began considering the implications. If humanity had been observing Council activities for years, they might know about military deployments, technological capabilities, even political situations. On the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, Captain Dae-hyun was conducting his own analysis. Intelligence Director Hai-wan had been monitoring all communications from the alien fleet. Their language translation systems had been breaking down Council military codes in real time. Captain, Hai-wan reported, the alien commander is requesting emergency communications with his superiors. He is describing our capabilities as beyond current understanding and recommending immediate defensive preparations. Captain Dae-hyun nodded. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The aliens now understood that humanity was not a primitive species to be intimidated, but he needed to establish the terms of future contact before fear led to poor decisions. Boram, open a direct channel to the alien commander. I want to speak with him personally. Admiral Kethmore was surprised when his communications officer reported an incoming direct transmission from the human ship. Most species required formal protocols for leader-to-leader communications. The humans seemed to operate with unusual directness. The face that appeared on his screen was clearly human. Captain Dae-hyun had dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decoration, but there was something in his bearing that spoke of absolute confidence and authority. Admiral Kethmore of the Galactic Council 3rd Diplomatic Fleet, Dae-hyun said, using perfect pronunciation of the alien's name and titles. I am Captain Dae-hyun of the United Earth Navy. I believe we need to discuss the situation. The Admiral was struck by several things at once. The human knew his name and rank, though they had never been transmitted. The human's voice carried the calm authority of someone accustomed to command. Most importantly, the human seemed completely unimpressed by Council technology or military power. Captain Dae-hyun, Kethmore replied carefully, I must admit that our initial assessment of human capabilities was incorrect. Your vessel and technology are far more advanced than our records indicated. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. Admiral, your records were based on information that is 50 years out of date. Humanity has made significant advances since your last visit to this system. The statement hit Kethmore like a shock. The humans knew about previous Council surveys. They knew they had been observed and evaluated. Yet they had somehow managed to develop advanced technology without any Council species detecting it. Captain, I must ask directly, how long has humanity been aware of the Galactic Council's existence? We first detected Council communications approximately 53 years ago, Dae-hyun replied matter-of-factly. Since then we have been studying your technology, your languages, and your political structures. We wanted to be prepared when formal contact eventually occurred. The admission sent waves of shock through the Council bridge crew. The humans had been studying them for over 50 years. They had learned Council languages, analyzed Council technology, and prepared for this moment while remaining completely hidden. This is unprecedented, whispered Tactical Officer Nevron. No species has ever achieved such intelligence-gathering capabilities before formal contact. Admiral Kethmore was beginning to understand the scope of what he was facing. Humans had not simply developed advanced weapons. They had developed an entire intelligence network capable of studying the Council without being detected. They knew Council capabilities, while the Council knew almost nothing about them. "Captain Dae-hyun," the Admiral said, "I believe this situation requires discussions at the highest levels of both our governments. Would you be willing to participate in formal diplomatic negotiations?" "Of course," Dae-hyun replied. "However, I should clarify something about human government structure. Unlike Council species, humanity does not have a single planetary leadership. We have multiple nation-states with different governments. But in matters of first contact and external defense, I have been granted full authority to speak for all human governments." This was another surprise. Most species the Council encountered had single world governments by the time they developed spaceflight. The idea of multiple governments on one world was unusual. The idea that they could coordinate effectively enough to grant one person authority over all of them was even more unusual. "What authority do you represent?" Kethmore asked. "I am an officer of the United Earth Navy, which handles all human military operations beyond our solar system. I also hold diplomatic credentials from the Terran Defense Council, which coordinates all human governments in matters of external contact. For the purposes of these negotiations, I can speak for all of humanity." The Admiral was impressed despite himself. The humans had created government structures specifically designed to handle contact with alien species. They had prepared for this moment in ways that went far beyond just building advanced weapons. Chief Science Officer Min-ji approached Captain Dae-hyun's chair on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath. She carried a data pad with detailed analysis of the alien fleet. "Captain," she said quietly, "we have completed our full sensor sweep of their vessels. Their technology is primitive compared to our current capabilities, but it is not primitive compared to early Council records. They have been advancing, just much more slowly than we have." Dae-hyun nodded. "What is your assessment of their intentions?" "They appear to be following standard Council first contact procedures. Based on our observations of their previous contacts with primitive species, they expect to establish a protectorate relationship. They provide technology and protection in exchange for resources and political control." "And their reaction to our demonstration?" Minji smiled. "They are terrified. Their communications indicate they have never encountered a species with capabilities that exceed their own. They are requesting emergency reinforcements and recommending defensive preparations throughout Council space." Captain Dae-hyun considered this information. Fear could lead to poor decisions. If the Council felt threatened enough, they might attempt a preemptive attack with larger forces. It was time to provide some reassurance while establishing clear boundaries. "Admiral Kethmore," Dae-hyun said, continuing their conversation, "I want to assure you that humanity has no hostile intentions toward the Galactic Council. We are interested in peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial relationships." The Bricio Admiral felt some relief at these words. "That is good to hear, Captain. The Council has always sought to welcome new species into the galactic community. However," Dae-hyun continued, "humanity will not accept a subordinate relationship. We are prepared to engage with the Council as equals, not as a client species." This statement caused another shock on the Council bridge. In over 1,000 years of expansion, no newly contacted species had ever demanded equal status with the Council. The concept was almost unthinkable. "Captain," Admiral Kethmore said carefully, "the Council has established procedures for integrating new species. There are protocols that must be followed, standards that must be met." "Admiral, I believe you misunderstand the situation. Humanity is not seeking to be integrated into existing Council structures. We are proposing the establishment of new relationships between the Council and an independent human government." The implications were staggering. The humans were not asking to join the Council. They were demanding recognition as an independent power capable of dealing with the Council on equal terms. Engineering Chief Soo-jin monitored the conversation from her station while keeping watch on the alien ships. Their vessels were maintaining defensive positions, but their energy signatures showed growing tension. Some ships were slowly charging additional weapon systems. "Captain," she said quietly, "several alien ships are powering up secondary weapons. They may be preparing for a more serious confrontation." Tactical Officer Jin Woo confirmed the observation. "Sir, 3 of their light cruisers are charging their main plasma cannons. They may be testing our response to increased threat levels." Captain, Dae-hyun considered the situation. The aliens were following predictable patterns again. When diplomacy failed to achieve their objectives, they escalated to shows of force. When shows of force failed, they escalated to actual threats. It was time to demonstrate that this approach would not work with humanity. Jinwoo, activate defensive screens around their entire fleet. Minimum power, just enough to interfere with. Their weapon systems. Make sure they can detect what we are doing. The emergency session of the Galactic Council High Command convened within hours of Admiral Kethmore's first report. Representatives from 12 major species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world. The Chamber had seen many crisis meetings over the centuries, but none quite like this. High Counselor Zarthek, a tall figure from the ancient ethereal race, called the session to order. His pale blue skin seemed to glow in the chamber's soft lighting as he reviewed the initial reports from the 3rd Diplomatic Fleet. "Members of the High Council," Zarthek began, "we face an unprecedented situation. A species we classified as primitive has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our own. Admiral Kethmore's reports describe weapons and technology that our science divisions cannot explain." Military advisor Korthvik, a heavily built warrior from the Krogan territories, slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible. No species develops such capabilities without being observed. Our monitoring networks cover this entire sector of space." "Apparently not as well as we thought," replied Science Counselor Yathara, her insect-like features showing concern. "The humans have been studying us for over 50 years while remaining completely hidden. This suggests intelligence and planning capabilities we have never encountered." Admiral Kethmore appeared on the main communication screen, transmitting from his flagship near Earth. His normally confident demeanor was replaced by obvious tension. The veteran officer had seen his fair share of battles, but nothing had prepared him for this encounter. "High Counselor," Kethmore reported, "I must emphasize that the human vessel destroyed one of our frigates with a single shot from an undetectable weapon. Our sensors recorded no energy discharge, no projectile, no conventional weapon signature of any kind. The ship simply ceased to exist." Strategic Planning Officer Tai Jin reviewed the technical data flowing in from the fleet. His species, the Cerebral Collective, were known for their analytical abilities. What he saw in the data disturbed him greatly. "The humans appear to possess technology based on quantum manipulation," Taejin reported. "Their weapons operate outside conventional physics as we understand them. Their sensors can penetrate our stealth systems and defensive screens as if they were transparent. Most concerning, they demonstrated the ability to project disruptive fields that neutralized our weapons from a distance." Economic Counselor Velnara, representing the Trade Federation, raised a different concern. "If the humans possess such advanced technology, what does this mean for our expansion plans?" This sector was designated for Council development. Multiple worlds were scheduled for integration over the next century. High Counselor Zarthek studied the star maps showing human territory. Earth's solar system was positioned strategically along several major trade routes. If humanity claimed a larger sphere of influence, it could disrupt Council expansion for decades. "What are the humans demanding?" Zarthek asked. Admiral Kethmore consulted his notes. Their captain, Dae-hyun, states that humanity seeks peaceful coexistence, but will not accept subordinate status. They want to be recognized as equals and granted an independent sphere of influence. The chamber erupted in discussion. Never in Council history had a newly contacted species demanded equal status. The very concept challenged the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. "Equals," Military Advisor Korthvik growled. The Council has maintained order for over 1,000 years. We cannot simply grant equal status to every species that builds a large ship. This is not just a large ship, Science Counselor Yathara pointed out. The humans have demonstrated technological superiority in multiple areas. We may not have a choice in this matter. Back in the Sol system, Captain Dae-hyun was holding his own briefing with senior staff aboard the Titan's Wrath. The human command crew had been monitoring Council communications and analyzing their responses to the demonstration. The Council leadership is meeting on Nexus Prime, Intelligence Director Hai-wan reported. Our deep space monitoring stations are picking up increased military communications throughout Council space. They appear to be preparing for possible conflict. Chief Science Officer Minji reviewed her latest analysis of the Council fleet. Captain, I have been studying their vessel configurations. Based on observable technology, I estimate that our current fleet could defeat approximately 50 Council ships of equivalent size without significant losses. Engineering Chief Soo-jin nodded in agreement. Their fusion reactors and plasma weapons are functional but outdated. Our quantum-based systems provide overwhelming advantages in both offensive and defensive capabilities. Captain Dae-hyun listened to these assessments while watching the Council ships maintain their defensive positions around his vessel. He understood their fear. Humanity had spent 50 years developing technology specifically designed to counter Council capabilities. The result was a level of superiority that made conventional warfare impossible. Sir, Communications Officer Boram announced, we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Kethmore. He states that Council leadership requires a more detailed demonstration of human capabilities before formal negotiations can begin. Dae-hyun frowned. The Council was asking for additional proof of human strength. This could be a reasonable request for better understanding, or it could be an attempt to gather intelligence about human weaknesses. What kind of demonstration are they requesting? They want to observe human defensive capabilities against a simulated attack. They propose to conduct weapons tests against our shields and armor to better understand our technology. The request was both reasonable and dangerous. Allowing the Council to test their weapons against human defenses would provide valuable intelligence to both sides, but it would also reveal the true extent of human superiority, which might drive the Council to desperate measures. Tactical Officer Jin Woo analyzed the proposal from a military perspective. Captain, their weapons cannot penetrate our shields or damage our hull armor. A full demonstration would show them that their entire fleet combined could not seriously threaten this ship. That might cause panic, Intelligence Director Hai-wan warned. If they realize their military forces are completely ineffective against human technology, they might attempt to call in reinforcements from across Council space. Captain Dae-hyun considered the options. Complete demonstration would end any possibility of Council aggression, but it might also drive them to unite all their forces for a desperate attack. Limited demonstration might leave them with false hope and lead to future conflicts. Approved, he decided. We will allow them to conduct weapons tests against our defensive systems, but we will also provide them with detailed analysis of what they observe. I want them to understand exactly what they are seeing. Admiral Kethmore was surprised when the human captain agreed to the weapons testing. Most species would have refused such a request, viewing it as potential intelligence gathering. The human willingness to demonstrate their capabilities suggested either supreme confidence or elaborate deception. Captain Dae-hyun, the Admiral said during their communication, we appreciate your willingness to participate in this demonstration. It will help our leadership better understand the situation. Admiral, before we begin, I want to clarify something, Dae-hyun replied. This demonstration will show you the defensive capabilities of a single human vessel. It does not represent the full extent of human military technology. The statement sent chills through the Council bridge crew. If this massive warship was not representative of humanity's best technology, what other capabilities did they possess? The weapons test began with the Council fleet's smallest weapons. Laser batteries and particle beam weapons struck the Titan's Wrath's shields with energies that could melt through asteroid metal. The human shields absorbed the energy without any visible effect. No shield fluctuation detected, Sensor Specialist Clicktar reported. The human defensive fields are absorbing our weapon energy completely. The test escalated to plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. These weapons could destroy mountains and crack planetary crusts. Against the human shields, they created brief flashes of light before their energy was harmlessly dispersed. "Impossible," whispered Tactical Officer Nevron. "Those quantum torpedoes carry enough energy to level a city. The human shields are not even fluctuating." Admiral Kethmore ordered the use of their most powerful weapons. The main plasma cannon of his flagship charged to full power. This weapon could punch through the shields of any Council vessel and destroy it with a single shot. The massive energy beam struck the Titan's wrath with the force of a small star. For a moment, the space around the human ship glowed with released energy. Then the light faded, revealing the human vessel completely undamaged. "Shield integrity at 99.7%, Chief Science Officer Min Ji reported to Captain Dae-hyun. "The Council's most powerful weapon reduced our shields by less than 1%. On the Council ships, the silence was deafening. Their most advanced weapons, developed over centuries of warfare, had failed to cause meaningful damage to human defenses. The technological gap was not just significant, it was overwhelming." "Admiral," Communications Officer Theknar said quietly, "the humans are transmitting detailed analysis of our weapons testing. They are." The Great Chamber on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of Council species argued loudly as reports continued flowing in from the Sol system. The humans had not just demonstrated superior technology, they had revealed capabilities that challenged everything the Council thought they knew about galactic civilization. High Counselor Zarthek called for order repeatedly, but the chamber remained in uproar. Fear was driving rational beings to make irrational statements. Some demanded immediate mobilization of all Council fleets. Others suggested complete withdrawal from human space. A few extremist voices even proposed desperate measures that Zarthek refused to consider. "Silence." The High Counselor's voice boomed through the chamber's amplification systems. Slowly, the arguing subsided. "We will address this crisis with reason and careful planning, not panic." Military Advisor Korthvik stood to address the assembly. His massive frame dominated the speaker's platform as he displayed tactical analyses on the chamber's main screens. "Fellow counselors, we must face reality. The humans possess technology that makes our military forces obsolete. A single human vessel defeated our weapons testing without effort. Their fleet of 18 similar ships could theoretically challenge our entire military." Science Counselor Yathara's insect-like features showed deep concern as she added her analysis. "The human technology appears to be based on quantum field manipulation that we do not understand. Our science divisions estimate it would take us 50 to 100 years to develop similar capabilities, assuming we could duplicate their research." Economic Counselor Velnara presented data about the broader implications. The humans control strategic positions along 3 major trade routes. If they expand their sphere of influence as Captain Dae-hyun suggested, they could disrupt commerce throughout this sector of space. Strategic Planning Officer Taijin had been analyzing human intelligence capabilities. His report was perhaps the most disturbing of all. "The humans have been observing us for over 50 years without being detected. They know our languages, our technology, our military capabilities, and our political structures. Meanwhile, we know almost nothing about them. This intelligence imbalance gives them enormous advantages in any negotiations." High Counselor Zarthek studied the reports while considering options. Every analysis pointed to the same conclusion. The Council was facing a power that exceeded their capabilities in every measurable way. "What are the humans' stated intentions?" he asked. Admiral Kethmore's voice came through the communication system from the Sol system. "High Counselor Captain Dae-hyun has been consistent in stating that humanity seeks peaceful coexistence, but he also made it clear that they will not accept subordinate status and will defend themselves against any aggression." "Have they made any territorial demands?" "Not specific demands, but they have indicated they expect recognition of an expanded human sphere of influence. They have not defined the exact boundaries of this sphere." The implications were staggering. The humans could potentially claim dozens of star systems that the Council had planned to integrate. Worse, the Council had no way to prevent such claims if humanity decided to enforce them. In the Sol system, Captain Dae-hyun was receiving updates. From across human space, the first contact protocols had been activated throughout the Terran Defense Network. Every human colony, research station, and military base was now on alert and ready to respond to potential threats. Captain, Intelligence Director Haiwan, reported, "Our monitoring stations are detecting massive increases in Council military communications. They appear to be mobilizing additional fleets from across their territory." Communications Officer Boram confirmed the intelligence reports. "Sir, we are intercepting communications from over 40 Council worlds. They are discussing military options ranging from diplomatic pressure to full-scale warfare." Chief Science Officer Minji analyzed the military movements. Based on communication patterns, the Council is considering deploying their 2nd and 4th battle fleets to this sector. Combined with the 3rd diplomatic fleet already here, that would represent approximately 60 ships. Captain Dae-hyun considered these developments. The Council's fear was driving them toward military solutions that could only end in disaster for both sides. It was time to provide additional information that might encourage more reasonable approaches. Boram, open a channel to Admiral Kethmore. "I think it's time to share some additional facts about human defensive capabilities." Admiral Kethmore was surprised to receive another direct communication from the human captain. The Council leadership had been debating response strategies for hours without reaching any conclusions. Perhaps the humans had decided to make additional demands. "Admiral," Captain Dae-hyun said, "our monitoring stations indicate that the Council is considering military mobilization in response to our demonstration. I wanted to provide some additional information that might influence those discussions." The Admiral felt a chill at the casual mention of monitoring stations. The humans were intercepting Council communications across multiple star systems. Their intelligence network was even more extensive than anyone had realized. "What information do you wish to share, Captain?" "The Sol system contains more than just the Titan's wrath," Dae-hyun explained. "We maintain a comprehensive defensive network throughout human space. I thought your leadership might want to understand what they would face if they chose military action." The transmission included detailed sensor data showing human defensive installations throughout the solar system, orbital weapons platforms around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, hidden bases on dozens of moons and planetoids. Most shocking of all, massive defensive structures built inside asteroids that had been completely invisible to Council sensors. "Admiral," Sensor Specialist Kliktar said in a shaking voice, "the humans have built weapons platforms throughout their entire star system. I count over 300 major installations, plus countless smaller defensive positions." The scope of human preparations was overwhelming. They had not simply built one advanced warship. They had militarized their entire solar system with technology the Council could not detect or counter. "Captain Dae-hyun," Admiral Kethmore said carefully, "this represents a massive military buildup. How long have these installations been in place?" "Construction began 47 years ago," Dae-hyun replied. "We wanted to be properly prepared when formal contact with the Council eventually occurred. The timeline was devastating to Council assumptions. The humans had been building advanced military installations for nearly 50 years, all while remaining completely hidden from Council observation. It suggested planning and resource management capabilities that exceeded anything the Council had achieved. On Nexus Prime, the new intelligence caused fresh panic among Council leadership. High Counselor Zartek called for emergency sessions as military advisors tried to assess the scope of human defensive capabilities. "The humans have essentially turned their entire star system into a fortress," Military Advisor Korthvik reported. "Our analysts estimate that a successful assault would require the majority of our military forces, and casualties would be catastrophic." Science Counselor Yathara was studying the technical specifications of human installations. Many of these defensive platforms use the same quantum technology we observed on their warship. They appear to be capable of projecting defensive fields and offensive weapons across interplanetary distances. The implications were clear. Any military attack on human space would face not just their fleet of advanced warships, but hundreds of defensive installations using technology the Council could not counter. Strategic Planning Officer Tai Jin presented his analysis of human expansion capabilities. If the humans can build such installations in their home system, they can presumably build similar defenses around any worlds they choose to claim. This makes territorial expansion by the Council impossible in any region the humans decide to control. Economic Counselor Velnara raised concerns about long-term implications. If humanity continues advancing at their current rate, they could achieve technological superiority over the Council in every field within a few decades. We may be witnessing the emergence of a new dominant power in galactic civilization. Back in the Sol system, Captain Dae-hyun was monitoring Council reactions to his revelations. The aliens were clearly struggling to understand how humanity had achieved such capabilities without being detected. "Sir," Engineering Chief Soo-jin reported, "the Council ships are conducting detailed scans of our solar system. They are trying to map our defensive installations." "Let them scan," Dae-hyun replied. "They might as well understand what they are dealing with." The scanning operation took several hours. When it was complete, the Council officers had identified over 800 human installations throughout the solar system. The defensive network was far more extensive than anyone had imagined. "Captain," Tactical Officer Jin-woo said, "the aliens are requesting information about human expansion plans. They want to know which star systems humanity intends to claim." Captain Dae-hyun had been expecting this question. The Council needed to understand the scope of human territorial ambitions to plan their own future expansion. "Admiral Kethmore," he said during their next communique, 3 months after the first encounter, the neutral space station Harmony's rest in the Alpha Centauri system hosted the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The station had been built specifically for these negotiations, using both human and Council technology to create a truly neutral environment. Captain Dae-hyun arrived aboard a sleek human diplomatic vessel that impressed even the experienced Council representatives. The ship demonstrated the same advanced technology as the Titan's Wrath, but was clearly designed for peaceful purposes. Its elegant lines and sophisticated sensor arrays spoke of a civilization that valued both beauty and function. With him came a carefully selected team of human representatives. Ambassador Sang-hee carried credentials from all major human governments. Her calm demeanor and perfect command of multiple Council languages immediately impressed the alien diplomats. Trade. Coordinator Jun-ho brought detailed proposals for economic cooperation between humanity and Council worlds. Cultural liaison. Nara had spent years studying Council societies and was prepared to address cultural differences that might complicate negotiations. The Council delegation was equally impressive. High Counselor Zarthek attended personally, marking the importance of these discussions. Military Advisor Korthvik represented Council defense interests. Science Counselor Yathara brought teams of researchers eager to understand human technology. Economic Counselor Velnara came with trade proposals that could reshape galactic commerce. Admiral Kethmore served as the primary liaison between the delegations. His experiences during First Contact had given him unique insights into human capabilities and intentions. The Admiral had spent the past 3 months studying everything humanity had revealed about themselves, and he had developed a grudging respect for their strategic planning. The first formal session took place in the station's main conference chamber. The room was designed to accommodate the different environmental needs of multiple species. Atmospheric controls maintained comfortable conditions for both humans and the various Council races. "Welcome to this historic gathering," High Counselor Zarthek began. "We are here to establish the framework for peaceful coexistence between humanity and the Galactic Council." Ambassador Sang-hee responded with equal formality. "Humanity is honored to participate in these discussions. We come with peaceful intentions and hopes for mutually beneficial relationships." The opening pleasantries established the tone for negotiations that would reshape galactic politics. But beneath the diplomatic courtesy, both sides were carefully evaluating their opponents and planning strategies. Captain Dae-hyun observed the proceedings while staying alert for potential problems. Intelligence Director Hai-wan had briefed him on each Council representative, their political positions, and their likely negotiating strategies. The humans were as prepared for diplomacy as they had been for military contact. Perhaps we should begin with territorial questions, High Counselor Zarthek suggested. The Council needs to understand the scope of human expansion plans. Ambassador Sang He activated a holographic display showing human territorial claims. The map revealed an impressive sphere of influence that included dozens of star systems along major trade routes. Humanity currently controls these 15 systems, she explained. We have established permanent colonies on 23 worlds and research facilities in 41 additional systems. We are prepared to recognize Council authority in all other regions of space. The offer was more generous than the Council had expected. Human territorial claims, while extensive, left the majority of Council space under existing authority. It suggested that humanity was indeed interested in coexistence rather than conquest. Trade Coordinator Junho presented economic proposals that caught the Council delegation's attention. Humanity is prepared to offer limited technology sharing in exchange for access to Council trade networks. We believe both civilizations could benefit from expanded commerce. The mention of technology sharing caused excitement among the Council representatives. Access to human quantum technology could advance Council science by decades, but they also understood that humanity would carefully control what technologies they shared. Science Counselor Yathara leaned forward with interest. What technologies would humanity be willing to share? Selected applications of quantum field theory, Junho replied. Improved energy generation methods, advanced material science, medical technologies that could benefit Council species. The offer was substantial, but clearly limited. The humans were willing to share beneficial technologies while keeping their most advanced military applications secret. It was exactly what the Council would have done in the same situation. Military. Advisor Korthvik raised security concerns. The Council requires assurance that human expansion will not threaten existing Council territories or client species. Captain Dahyun addressed this concern directly. Humanity has no interest in conquering Council worlds or disrupting existing political relationships. We seek recognition of our territorial claims and peaceful coexistence. But what about future expansion? Korthvik pressed. Human population growth and technological advancement suggest continued territorial requirements. Ambassador Sang He had prepared for this question. Humanity's expansion plans are focused on uninhabited systems and worlds unsuitable for current Council species. We have identified approximately 200 systems that meet our colonization requirements without conflicting with Council interests. The answer revealed sophisticated planning that took Council needs into account. The humans had clearly spent years analyzing galactic political structures and identifying opportunities for expansion that would not create conflicts. Cultural Liaison Nara presented proposals for cultural exchange programs. Humanity believes that understanding between our civilizations will prevent misunderstandings that could lead to conflicts. We propose student exchange programs, joint research projects, and cultural festivals. The cultural proposals were well received by Council representatives who recognize the value of building personal relationships between their species. Understanding human motivations and thinking patterns would help the Council adapt to the new galactic balance. High Counselor Zarthek raised the most fundamental question. The Council has maintained galactic order for over 1,000 years. How does humanity see their role in existing galactic governance structures? The question went to the heart of the political changes that human emergence had created. The Council had always been the dominant power in galactic politics. Now they faced a civilization that was clearly their equal or superior. Ambassador Sang He addressed the question carefully. Humanity respects the Council's achievements in maintaining galactic peace and prosperity. We do not seek to disrupt existing governance structures. However, we expect recognition as an independent power with equal standing in galactic politics. The statement was diplomatic but firm. Humanity would not join the Council as a subordinate member. They demanded recognition as equals with their own sphere of influence and political authority. Would humanity be willing to participate in joint security operations? Military Advisor Korthvik asked. The galaxy faces external threats that require coordinated responses. Captain Dae-hyun exchanged glances with Ambassador Sang-hee before responding. Humanity is prepared to participate in mutual defense agreements against external threats. We believe cooperation between our military forces could benefit both civilizations. The offer of military cooperation was significant. It suggested that humanity saw the Council as potential allies rather than competitors, but it also implied that humanity expected equal partnership in any joint operations. Science Counselor Ythera raised technical questions about human technology. The quantum field applications we have observed appear to operate outside conventional physics. Would humanity be willing to share theoretical frameworks? Selected theoretical knowledge could be included in technology sharing agreements, Junho replied. However, some applications must remain restricted for security reasons. The answer was honest and expected. No civilization would share their most advanced military technologies with potential competitors. The fact that humanity was willing to share any theoretical knowledge was more generous than most species would be. Economic Counselor Velnara presented trade proposals that could benefit both civilizations. The Council controls extensive trade networks that could provide markets for human goods. In exchange, human-controlled systems could provide access to resources and strategic positions. The trade discussions revealed the practical benefits of cooperation. Human territory included strategic locations that could improve Council trade efficiency. Council markets could absorb human products and provide access to exotic materials from across the galaxy. As negotiations continued over several days, patterns emerged that defined the new relationship. Humanity would be recognized as an equal power with extensive territorial rights. The Council would maintain authority over existing territories while gaining access to human technology and strategic cooperation. The breakthrough came when Captain Dae-hyun made an unexpected revelation. Admiral Kethmore asked earlier about the scope of human military capabilities. I mentioned that the Titan's Wrath is scheduled for decommissioning. Captain Dae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the mining vessel New Busan, watching the morning shift workers head down to the surface of Taeyang River. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, green fields mixed with the silver gleam of the mining facilities. 50,000 people called this place home now. It had taken them 15 years to build something this beautiful. Captain, we have incoming ships on long-range sensors, said Communications Officer Hye-jin Choi. She was young, maybe 25, fresh from the academy. This was her first deep space assignment. Dae-ho walked over to her station. How many ships? 12, no, 15. They're big, sir, much bigger than our cargo haulers. Any identification signals? Hye-jin shook her head. Nothing on any channel. They're not responding to our standard greetings. Dae-ho felt something cold in his stomach. In 30 years of space work, he had never seen unknown ships this far out. The outer colonies were peaceful places. Pirates didn't come this far from the trade routes. Put me on General Comm. You're on, Captain. Unknown vessels. This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of the civilian mining ship New Busan. You are approaching the Taeyang 4 colony system. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. Silence. Down. On the planet, Dr. So-young Park was having a good morning. Her research station sat on a hill overlooking the main colony town. She studied the local plants and animals, looking for useful medicines. The work was slow but rewarding. Every week brought new discoveries. Her assistant, Junho, came running into the lab. Dr. Park, you need to see this. What is it? Ships, big ones, coming in fast. So-young stepped outside. Even without a telescope, she could see them now. Dark shapes against the blue sky, growing larger by the minute. They didn't look like human ships. Human ships were clean and bright. These were angular, aggressive-looking. Back on the New Busan, Dae-ho tried again. Unknown vessels, you are entering civilian space. Please respond. The ships were close enough now to see clearly. They were warships, no doubt about it. Massive. Guns pointed forward. Armor that looked like it could stop anything. And they were heading straight for the planet. Sir, Hye-jin said, her voice shaking. They're powering weapons. Get me Admiral Lee at Earth Command. Emergency channel. Sir, it will take 20 minutes for the signal to reach Earth. Do it anyway. Deho turned to the helm officer. Take us away from the planet. Best speed. The alien ships opened fire. The first blast hit the orbital mining platform. 500 workers were vaporized in an instant. The second blast took out the communication satellite. The third hit the New Busan. Deho found himself on the floor. Emergency lights flashed red. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. Report. Hull breach on Deck 7. We're losing atmosphere. The helm officer was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Engines are down to 40%. Hee-jin, did our message get out? Yes, sir. Right before they hit the satellite. Onabe. The planet's surface, the real attack began. Beams of energy rained down from the sky. The main city of New Seoul disappeared in a flash of white light. The mining facilities melted like ice in summer. Dr. So-Young Park's research station exploded just as she was helping Jun-Ho reach the emergency shelter. The aliens were thorough. They didn't just attack the cities. They hunted down the farms, the small towns, even individual houses scattered across the continents. From space, it looked like someone was erasing humanity from the planet with careful, methodical strokes. The New Busan limped away from the carnage. Half the crew was dead. The ship was barely holding together. But Hye-jin kept transmitting. This is civilian vessel New Busan. Taeyang 4 is under attack. Unknown alien force. 50,000 civilians. They're all dead. They're all dead. 20 light years away, Admiral Jin-Woo Lee sat in his office at Earth Command. He was reviewing supply, reports when the emergency signal came through. The aide who brought him the message was white as a sheet. Sir, you need to hear this. The recording played. Hye-jin's voice, broken and desperate. Taeyang Fu is under attack. Unknown alien force. They came without warning. No demands, no communication. They just started killing everyone. Jin-Woo had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had been a young lieutenant during the last real war, back when humans fought each other over resources. That was before they learned to work together, before they became peaceful. Confirm this, he said. We've lost contact with 3 more colonies, sir. Hanul Station, New Mokpo, Kotseum Research Base. Same pattern, no warning, total destruction. Jin-Woo stood up slowly. He walked to his window and looked out at the earth. Blue skies, white clouds, green continents. Peaceful. Sir, what are your orders? Jin-Woo turned back to his aide. The young man looked scared. Good. He should be scared. Everyone should be scared now. Signal the Defense Council. Emergency session. Tell them we have a Code Black situation. Sir, we haven't had a Code Black in 50 years. I know. Jin-Woo walked to his safe and entered a code he had memorized decades ago but never used. Inside was a single red key. And tell Fleet Engineering to begin Thunder Soul activation procedures. Sir, the Thunder Soul has been in mothballs since the Unification Wars ended. I know. I was there when we decided to put it away. Jin-Woo held up the key. I was also there when we swore to bring it back if anyone ever threatened human civilians again. The aide looked at the key like it was a poisonous snake. Sir, the Thunder Soul protocol was designed for human enemies. These are aliens. We don't know anything about them. We know enough. Jin-Woo's voice was cold now. They attack civilians without warning. They kill children. They think humans are weak. He slotted the key into his desk terminal. They're about to learn the difference between human peace and human weakness. Across the solar system, automated systems began to wake up. In the Titan shipyards, massive doors opened for the first time in 50 years. Lights came on in sections of the facility that had been dark for decades. Construction robots emerged from storage and began their work. The Thunder Soul battleship was 5 kilometers long and covered in armor that could stop planet-killing weapons. Its main guns could crack moons. Its engines could push it faster than light itself. And it had been sleeping, waiting for the day when humanity needed to remind the universe why peace was a choice, not a weakness. On the bridge of his damaged ship, Captain Dae-ho Kim watched the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were probably celebrating their easy victory. They had killed 50,000 humans and met no resistance. They probably thought Earth would surrender when they heard the news. "Captain," Hye-jin said, "I'm getting a signal from Earth Command. Put it through." Admiral Lee's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Dae-ho remembered. Tired. But his eyes were hard as steel. "Captain Kim, this is Admiral Lee. We received your transmission. I want you to know that we will not forget what happened to Taeyangshir. We will not forget Dr. Park. We will not forget the 50,000 civilians who died today. Sir, what are your orders? Get your people to safety. Find a place to repair your ship. And then wait." "Wait for what, sir?" Admiral Lee's expression was like winter itself. "Wait for the Thunder Soul." The signal ended. In the darkness of space, the damaged New Busan continued its slow journey away from the dead world. Behind them, alien ships patrolled the ruins of human civilization like wolves guarding their kill. But the wolves had made a mistake. They had attacked the wrong species. They had killed human children and thought there would be no consequences. They had mistaken 50 years of peace for 50 years of weakness. Deep in the solar system, ancient weapons were waking up. The Thunder Soul battleship was being prepared for war. And when it launched, the galaxy would remember why humans had spent so much effort learning to be peaceful. Because when humans chose violence, they were very, very good at it. The Vorthak had wanted to see what humans looked like when they were angry. Soon they would get their wish, and they would regret it for the rest of their very short lives. Admiral Lee stood in his office, still holding the red key. Outside his window, Earth looked as peaceful as ever. But deep in the shipyards of Titan, something terrible and beautiful was being born. The Thunder Soul would wake soon. And when it did, the galaxy would learn that there were worse things than human peace. There was human war. The aliens had made their choice when they opened fire on civilians. Now humanity would make theirs, and the universe would never be the same. In the depths of space, the New Busan sent out one final transmission, not to Earth this time, but on all frequencies, in all languages. "This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of Earth. 50,000 human civilians are dead. You killed our children, you destroyed our homes, you thought we were weak." There was a long pause. When Dae-ho spoke again, his voice was steady and calm. "You were wrong." The message traveled outward at the speed of light. In a few hours, it would reach the nearest inhabited systems. In a few days, it would spread across the galaxy. And everywhere it went, species would begin to understand that something fundamental had changed. The humans were no longer peaceful. They were hunting. Captain Woo Jin-han stood at the edge of the observation deck and watched his ship come alive. The Thunder Soul had been sleeping in the Titan shipyards for 50 years. Now, kilometer by kilometer, it was waking up. Construction robots swarmed over the massive hull like metal insects. They removed the protective coating that had kept the ship safe during its long sleep. Beneath the gray covering, the real armor appeared. Black as space, harder than diamond, and covered with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "It's bigger than I remembered," said Commander Mi Ra-song. She was young for a fleet officer, maybe 35. This would be her first assignment, on a battleship. "Everything was bigger during the war," Woo Jin replied. "We built things to last forever and kill anything. Did we really need something this large?" Woo Jin looked at her. She had been born after the unification wars ended. Her generation had grown up in peace. They thought war was something that happened to other people in history books. "We built the Thunder Soul to end wars, not fight them. The idea was simple. Build something so terrible that no one would ever want to fight us again." And it worked. For 50 years. Woo Jin turned back to watch the awakening ship. Until now. Deep inside the Thunder Soul, Chief Engineer Boram Yoon was having problems. The ship's systems were more complex than anything built before or since. Some of the technology had been experimental even during wartime. After 50 years of sleep, nothing was working properly. "The quantum fold generators won't sync," reported her assistant Tae Min. "The power flows are all wrong. That's because they were never meant to be turned off, Boram said. She was 60 years old and had worked on the Thunder Soul during its original construction. She knew every bolt and wire in the massive ship. These systems are alive. You don't shut them down and restart them like a regular engine. So what do? We wake them up slowly, like a person coming out of a long sleep. Boram touched a control panel. Deep in the ship's core, something that was part machine and part something else began to stir. Easy now. Remember who you are? On the command deck, Admiral Jinwoo Lee was briefing the senior staff. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls. Red marks showed where human colonies had been attacked. The pattern was clear and brutal. 17 colonies destroyed in the last week, he said. No survivors, no communication attempts. They attack without warning and leave nothing alive. Who are they? Asked Captain Wu Jin Han. We call them the Vorthak. It's the closest we can come to pronouncing their name. They're a military confederation from the outer spiral. They've been conquering smaller species for centuries. What do they want? Near as we can tell, they want our space. Humans have been expanding for 300 years. We have good planets, rich systems, and useful trade routes. They probably see us as just another weak species to be removed. Commander Mira Song studied the tactical displays. Sir, their technology looks advanced. Their ships are large and well-armed. How do we know we can beat them? The room went quiet. Admiral Lee looked at Captain Han. Han looked at the floor for a long moment. Commander, have you ever studied the Unification Wars? Of course, sir. Required reading at the Academy. Then you know that humans spent most of their history fighting each other. We got very good at it, too good. Yes, sir. What the history books don't tell you is why we really stopped fighting. It wasn't because we learned to love peace. It was because we got scared of ourselves. Han pointed to the Thunder Soul through the window. We built weapons that could crack planets, ships that could sterilize solar systems. We created things so terrible that we locked them away and swore never to use them again. But sir, those were for fighting other humans. These are aliens. Commander, the Thunder Soul wasn't designed to fight humans. It was designed to kill everything. Boram finally got the main power systems online 6 hours later. The Thunder Soul's lights came on section by section. 5 kilometers of corridors, thousands of rooms, and weapons bays large enough to hold entire cruisers. The ship was a city that moved between the stars. Power at 60% and rising, she reported to the bridge. Quantum fold generators are syncing properly. The ship remembers how to be alive. What about the weapons? Asked Captain Han. The conventional weapons are ready. Plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic railguns. Enough firepower to level a continent. And the special weapons? Boram was quiet for a moment. Sir, are you sure we need to activate those systems? The conventional weapons should be enough for most situations. Chief, these aliens just killed 50,000 civilians, including children. I want every weapon on this ship ready to fire. Yes, sir. But Captain, some of these weapons, they're not meant for normal warfare. The Storm Protocol alone could... I know what it could do. I was there when we tested it. Activate everything. The Thunder Soul's crew was coming together slowly. Most of them were young officers who had never seen combat. They had trained for war in simulators and classrooms, but they had never faced an enemy that wanted to kill them. Lieutenant Yejin Lim was the new gunnery officer. She was 28 years old and had graduated first in her class from the Naval Academy. She had requested assignment to the Thunder Soul because she wanted to serve on the most powerful ship in the fleet. Now she stood in the main weapons control center and wondered if she had made a mistake. The room was huge. Dozens of control stations managed hundreds of different weapons. The targeting computers were so complex they seemed almost alive. Ma'am, said her chief petty officer, the main cannons are coming online. Yejin looked at the displays. The Thunder Soul carried 12 main guns, each one larger than most ships. When they fired, they didn't just destroy targets, they erased them from existence. Run a full diagnostic. I want every system checked twice. Yes, ma'am. But ma'am, why do we need so much firepower? The aliens have big ships, but nothing like this. Because, Chief, we're not just going to beat them. We're going to make sure they never want to fight humans again. Intelligence Officer Kyung-Soo Nam was studying the enemy. The surviving crews from the attacked colonies had provided some information about the Vorthak ships and tactics. It wasn't much, but it was a start. They're fast and well-coordinated, he reported to Captain Han. Their weapons are energy-based, probably plasma or particle beams. Their armor is thick but not exotic. Standard military protection. Numbers? We estimate about 200 ships in their main fleet, maybe 300 total across all their forces. Crew complement? Unknown. Their ships are large, so probably several thousand beings per vessel. Captain Han studied the data. 200 ships was a large force by human standards. During peacetime, the Earth fleet had maybe 50 active warships, but the Thunder Soul had been built to fight entire fleets by itself. What about their tactics? Simple and direct. They jump into a system, destroy everything quickly, and move on. No complex strategies. They seem to rely on overwhelming firepower and shock. That suggests they haven't fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Exactly, sir. They're used to easy victories. The Thunder Soul's first test came sooner than expected. A Vorthak patrol fleet was detected near the ruins of Taiyangfor. 3 ships, smaller than the main battle units but still dangerous. This is perfect, Captain Han said. We can test our systems without committing to a major battle. The Thunder Soul jumped to the edge of the Taiyang system. The massive ship appeared out of nowhere, its black hull nearly invisible against the stars. The only lights came from the bridge and the glowing energy patterns that ran along the armor. The Vorthak ships detected them immediately. They turned to attack, probably thinking they were facing another human civilian vessel. Sir, they're charging weapons, reported Yejin Lim. Range to targets? 50,000 kilometers and closing. Fire 1 main cannon. Minimum power. The Thunder Soul's forward gun spoke once. A beam of pure energy crossed the distance between the ships in microseconds. It struck the lead Vorthak vessel dead center. The alien ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply ceased to exist. Where there had been a kilometer of armor and weapons, now there was empty space. What the hell? Whispered Commander Song. The other 2 Vorthak ships stopped their attack. They turned and fled at maximum speed. Sir, said Yejin, should I engage the fleeing vessels? Captain Han watched the aliens run. Good. Fear was the beginning of wisdom. No. Let them go. I want them to tell their friends what they saw. Back on the bridge, the crew was silent. They had all seen the weapon demonstrations during training, but seeing it used against a real target was different. The Thunder Soul's main cannon didn't just destroy ships, it removed them from reality. Chief Engineer, Captain Han said into his comm. What's our status? All systems normal, sir. That shot used about 1% of our total power. And the special weapons? Ready. When you are, Captain, though I still think we should be careful about using them. Noted. Stand by for jump to Earth orbit. The Thunder Soul folded space around itself and disappeared. Behind them, the empty spot where the Vorthak ship had been slowly filled with cosmic dust. Light years away, the surviving aliens sent desperate messages to their fleet commanders. They spoke of a human ship that appeared from nowhere and deleted their companion vessel with a single shot. They described, the Thunder Soul moved through space like a black ghost. Captain Woojin Han stood on the bridge watching the tactical displays. Each red dot represented a Vorthak ship. Each one was a target. Intelligence report, he ordered. Kyung-Soo Nam stepped forward with his data pad. Sir, we've located the main Vorthak fleet. Approximately 150 ships gathered near the Hanyul system. They appear to be using the destroyed colony as a staging area. What kind of ships? Mixed force. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Their flagship is massive, sir. Nearly 3 kilometers long. Crew estimates? Between 200 and 300,000 Vorthak total across the entire fleet. Commander Mi-Ra Song looked up from her station. Sir, that's a lot of lives. Captain Han turned to look at her. His expression was cold. Commander, they killed 50,000 human civilians, including children who had never hurt anyone. How many lives do you think their lives are worth? Sir, I didn't mean. The answer is 0, Commander. Their lives are worth exactly nothing. The bridge fell silent. This was the new reality. The old Captain Han, the peacetime officer who followed rules and worried about civilian casualties, was gone. What remained was something harder and infinitely more dangerous. Gunnery Officer Lim, report to the bridge. Yejin Lim arrived within minutes. She had been working in the weapons bay, calibrating the targeting systems. The Thunder Soul's guns were more precise than anything ever built. They could hit a single building from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Captain, all weapons systems are optimal. Good. I want you to plan an engagement against 150 enemy ships. Sir, all at once? Yes. How long would it take to destroy the entire fleet? Yejin thought for a moment. She had run similar calculations in the simulator, but never with real targets. Sir, with conventional weapons, approximately 12 minutes. With special weapons, she paused. 6 minutes, sir. Maybe less. That seems excessive. We want them to suffer, not die instantly. Yes, sir. Conventional weapons it is. War Prime Krulex stood in the command center of his flagship, the Void Render. Around him, his officers monitored the human fleet movements. The reports were troubling. The humans had only deployed one ship, but that ship was like nothing in their databases. Status of our scouts? He asked. We have lost contact with patrol groups 7, 12, and 15, reported his intelligence officer. The last transmission from Group 15 showed a human vessel of unknown design. Show me. The recording played on the main screen. A grainy image of the Thunder Soul appeared, its hull black against the stars. The image quality was poor, but the ship's massive size was clear. How big is that vessel? Estimates range from 4 to 6 kilometers in length, War Prime. It appears to be heavily armed. One ship, Krulex said slowly. They send one ship against our entire fleet. Perhaps it is a negotiation vessel, suggested his tactical officer. Maybe they wish to surrender. Or maybe, said another voice, they think one ship is enough. Krulex turned to see who had spoken. It was Sub-Commander Vex, his youngest officer. Vex had studied human military history as part of his intelligence training. Explain. War Prime. The humans have an unusual approach to warfare. Most species build many small ships. Humans build fewer ships but make them much more powerful. This vessel may be their primary battle unit. One ship cannot defeat 150. With respect, sir, we thought 100 ships could not lose to unarmed civilians. We were wrong about human defenses. Krulex considered this. The young officer had a point. Every assumption they had made about humans had proven incorrect. They had expected easy surrender and found fierce resistance. They had expected weak defenses and found weapons that could erase ships from existence. Double our patrol coverage. I want to know where that ship is at all times. But the Thunder Soul was already hunting. Captain Han had divided the Vorthak fleet into smaller groups and was eliminating them one by one. The tactic was simple, but effective. Jump in, destroy everything, jump out. No communication, no warning, no mercy. The first attack came at dawn, local time, near the outer edge of the Hanel system. A Vorthak patrol of 6 ships was conducting routine reconnaissance. The Thunder Soul appeared behind them without warning. Targets acquired, reported Yejin Lim. Range, 15,000 kilometers. Fire. 6 beams of energy reached out from the Thunder Soul. 6 Vorthak ships became expanding clouds of debris. The entire engagement lasted 8 seconds. Jump coordinates laid in, sir, reported the navigation officer. Execute. The Thunder Soul vanished, leaving only wreckage and confusion. The second attack came 6 hours later. A supply convoy heading toward the main fleet found itself facing the massive human warship. The convoy had an escort of 12 destroyers. None of them survived. By the end of the first day, the Thunder Soul had destroyed 47 Vorthak vessels. The aliens began to understand they were not fighting a battle. They were being hunted. War Prime, said the communications officer. We're receiving panic signals from across the fleet. Ships are requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw. To where? Krulex demanded. That human ship can appear anywhere. Perhaps we should attempt communication. Try to understand what they want. We know what they want, said Sub-Commander Vex. They want us dead. On the Thundersoul, Intelligence Officer Kyung-Soo Nam was monitoring Vorthak communications. The ER quantum sensors could intercept their signals from across the system. What he heard made him smile for the first time in weeks. Captain, the enemy is in full panic. They're reporting that we can strike anywhere at any time. Some of their commanders are recommitting that their species fight an enemy like us. Good. Fear will make them sloppy. Sir, there's something else. They're trying to understand our capabilities. They don't know how we can appear and disappear so quickly. Let them wonder. Mystery is another weapon. The Thundersoul's next target was more challenging. A battle group of 24 heavy cruisers had formed a defensive formation near one of the system's moons. They were ready for attack, weapons charged and shields at maximum. Interesting, Captain Han said as he studied the tactical display. They're learning. Should we abort, sir? Asked Commander Song. No, but we'll try something different. Han turned to his gunnery officer. Lieutenant Lim, I want you to target their engines only. Disable them, don't destroy them. Sir, I want them alive for a while. Let them think about what's coming. The Thundersoul appeared directly above the Vorthak formation. The aliens opened fire immediately. Dozens of energy beams struck the human ship's shields. The Thundersoul barely noticed. Ye-Jin Lim fired with surgical precision. 24 precise shots disabled 24 ships. The Vorthak vessels tumbled, helplessly, their engines destroyed but their life support intact. Now what, sir? She asked. Now we wait 5 minutes. Let them call for help. Let them realize no help is coming. Captain Han opened a communication channel to the disabled ships. He had never spoken to a Vorthak before, but their translation software was excellent. Vorthak vessels, this is Captain Woo-Jin Han of the Earth vessel Thundersoul. You have 5 minutes to send messages to your families. Tell them you died because your leaders chose to murder human children. The channel closed. On the disabled ships, panic spread. Some Vorthak tried to repair their engines. Others sent desperate messages to their homeworlds. A few simply waited for death. After exactly 5 minutes, the Thundersoul fired again. This time, it did not aim to disable. War Prime Krulex watched his fleet disappear ship by ship. The humans were not just defeating his forces, they were playing with them. The psychological effect was devastating. His crew jumped at shadows. Officers questioned every order. How many ships have we lost, he asked. 73 confirmed, destroyed War Prime. Another 12 disabled and presumed lost. In how much time? 36 hours, sir. Krulex sat down heavily in his command chair. At this rate, his entire fleet would be gone within a week. And they had not managed to inflict a single casualty on the human ship. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Confederacy Council. Put it through. The face of Supreme War Leader Threx appeared on the screen. Threx was old, scarred, and had conquered a dozen species. He had never lost a battle. Krulex, explain your situation. Supreme Leader, we are facing unexpected resistance. The humans have deployed a weapon platform of unprecedented capability. One ship, Krulex? You are telling me that one ship is defeating our entire invasion fleet? Yes, sir. Their technology is far beyond our estimates. Threx was silent for a long moment. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated that humans were weak, peaceful. They showed no resistance to our initial attacks. I believe, sir, that we misunderstood the nature of human peace. They were not weak. They were choosing not to fight. Now they have chosen differently. Recommendations? Krulex looked around his command center. His officers were watching, waiting to see if their leader could find a way out of the trap they had walked into. Sir, I recommend immediate withdrawal. This species is more dangerous than we anticipated. Unacceptable. The Confederacy has never retreated from inferior beings. You will destroy this human ship and continue the invasion as planned. Sir, with respect, that may not be possible. Make it possible, War Prime, or find someone who can. The Storm Protocol was humanity's most terrible secret. Chief Engineer Boram Yoon remembered the day they had tested it, 20 years before the wars ended. They had chosen an empty system, nothing but a dead star and floating rocks. When the test was finished, even the rocks were gone. "Captain," she said over the intercom, "Storm Protocol is ready. But sir, once we activate this, there's no going back. The energy signature will be visible from halfway across the galaxy." Captain Wu Jin, Han stood on the bridge of the Thunder Soul, watching the Vorthak fleet assemble in defensive formation. 78 ships arranged in a perfect sphere around their flagship. They thought numbers would save them. "Chief, how many people are on those ships?" "Approximately 150,000, sir." "And how many humans did they kill?" 50,000 confirmed dead across 17 colonies, sir." "Then we're still being generous. Activate the Storm Protocol." The Thunder Soul began to change. Energy patterns that had been dim now blazed with white light. The ship's hull started to vibrate as systems that had slept for decades came online. In the weapon bays, devices that bent space and time prepared for activation. Gunnery Officer Yejin Lim watched her displays with growing concern. The power readings were beyond anything she had trained for. "Sir, the weapon systems are drawing power directly from the main reactors. If something goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong, Lieutenant. The Storm Protocol has been tested." "Yes, sir. But sir, what exactly does it do?" Captain Han looked at her. "It turns an entire region of space into a killing field. Anything within 50,000 kilometers of us will cease to exist." War Prime Krulex felt the change in space itself. His sensors detected massive energy buildups from the human ship. Whatever they were planning, it was drawing more power than his entire fleet combined. "Analysis," he demanded. "Unknown, War Prime. Our computers cannot classify the energy signature. It's unlike anything in our databases." "Recommendations?" "Immediate. Withdrawal, sir. Whatever they're preparing, we should not be here when it activates." "We cannot withdraw. The Confederacy expects victory." "Sir, the Confederacy expects us to survive long enough to achieve victory." Krulex looked at his tactical officer. The younger Vorthak was right, but admitting it meant acknowledging that their entire invasion had been a mistake. Pride warred with survival instinct. Pride lost. "All ships begin withdrawal. Maximum speed." But it was too late. The Thunder Soul activated the Storm Protocol. Space itself screamed. Reality twisted as the Thunder Soul's weapon system reached into the foundation of physics and broke several important laws. What happened next was difficult to describe in normal language. The area around the Thunder Soul became a storm of energy and matter. Quantum fields collapsed and reformed. Gravity became a suggestion rather than a law. Time moved differently, in different places, and everything else in that region of space simply stopped existing. The Vorthak ships didn't explode. They didn't burn. They didn't even have time to send distress signals. One moment they were there, the next moment they were not. 78 ships and 150,000 lives became nothing more than empty space. Storm Protocol deactivated, reported Boram Yoon. "All systems normal." Captain Han looked at the tactical display. Where the Vorthak fleet had been, there was now nothing, not even debris. The Storm Protocol had erased them so completely that it was as if they had never existed. "Sir," whispered Commander Song, "what have we done?" "We've sent a message," Han replied, "to every species in the galaxy." News of the Battle of Hunyul spread quickly. The Galactic Communications Network carried the story to every inhabited system within days. Most species refused to believe it. At first, one ship destroying an entire fleet was impossible. Then the recordings arrived. A cargo hauler had been passing through a nearby system when the Storm Protocol activated. Their long-range sensors captured the entire event. The footage showed the Vorthak fleet assembling, the Thunder Soul approaching, and then nothing. just empty space where 150 ships had been. Elder Council Speaker Mithros watched the recording for the 20th time. He was over 800 years old and had seen many wars, but he had never seen anything like this. How is such a weapon possible? He asked his science advisor. We don't know, Speaker. Our physicists believe they somehow weaponized quantum field collapse. The mathematics alone should be impossible. And this ship, the Thunder Soul, it survived its own weapon? Apparently, the energy readings suggest they have some form of protection we don't understand. Mithros sat back in his chair. The Elder Council had maintained galactic peace for centuries through careful diplomacy and the threat of collective action. Now, one species had weapons that made all their carefully balanced treaties meaningless. Contact the human government, immediately. Speaker, we've been trying. They're not responding to any diplomatic channels. What about the ship itself? The Thunder Soul has not acknowledged any communication attempts. Then they intend to continue hunting. So it appears, Speaker. Ambassador Yoonji Shin received her orders while serving at the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. She was a career diplomat who had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species. Her job was to maintain the peaceful contact that humans had enjoyed since first contact. Now her orders were very different. You will establish a new diplomatic protocol, Admiral Lee told her over the encrypted channel. Every species that wants to maintain relations with humanity will acknowledge that human space is absolutely inviolate. Any attack on human civilians will result in immediate and total retaliation. Sir, that's essentially demanding submission from the entire galaxy. Yes, it is. Sir, what if they refuse? What if other species decide that humans have become too dangerous? Then they can ask, the Vorthak, what happens when you threaten humans? Admiral Lee's expression was granite. Oh, wait. They can't. Because the Vorthak no longer exist. The Thunder Soul continued its hunt. Across 3 star systems, any ship flying Vorthak colors was destroyed on sight. Captain Han had divided his crew into hunting teams. Each team tracked different groups of fleeing aliens. Sir, reported Kyung-Soo Nam, we've detected a group of Vorthak ships attempting to reach neutral space. 12 vessels heading for the Calarian trade zone. Intercept course, we can't let them escape to threaten other species. Sir, the Calarians are asking for clarification of our intentions. They're worried about their sovereignty. Tell them we have no quarrel with Calarian civilians. We're simply removing a pest problem. The Thunder Soul jumped ahead of the fleeing Vorthak ships. When the aliens dropped out of faster-than-light travel, they found the massive human warship waiting for them. This time Captain Han opened communications. Vorthak vessels, this is Captain Han. You attacked human civilians. You killed human children. You thought humans were weak. On the lead Vorthak ship, the commander tried to respond. Human captain, we wish to negotiate. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will be no survivors. The Thunder Soul fired. 12 ships became cosmic dust. The Calarian observers watched in silence. The human ship had destroyed the Vorthak vessels so quickly they barely had time to register the attack, and it had done so without causing any damage to Calarian space or property. Calarian trade zone, this is Captain Han of the Thunder Soul. The pest removal is complete. You may resume normal operations. The humans departed as quickly as they had arrived. Behind them, the Calarians began to understand that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Across known space, governments held emergency sessions. Military commanders studied the recordings of human weapons. Scientists tried to understand how the Storm Protocol was possible. Everyone reached the same conclusion. Humanity had been peaceful by choice, not necessity. War Prime Krulek found himself in command of the last intact Vorthak force. 37 ships hiding in the outer system, trying to avoid the Thunder Soul's sensors. His officers were terrified. Half of them wanted to surrender. The other half wanted to run to the edge of the galaxy. War Prime, we could contact their government directly, offer full reparations for the colonies we destroyed, and admit that the Confederacy was wrong to attack them. Sir, The Confederacy no longer exists. Half our worlds have declared independence, rather than face human retaliation. The other half are demanding your removal from command. Krulex looked at his tactical displays. Where once he had commanded 300 ships and been the terror of lesser species, now he hid with a handful of survivors afraid to move. Sir, there's something else. Our long-range sensors have detected other human ships. Dozens of them, all heading toward Confederacy space. What kind of ships? Unknown design, sir. But if they're anything like the Thunder Soul... Krulex closed his eyes. He had started this war thinking humans were weak prey. Now his entire species faced extinction because of his mistake. Open a channel to the human ship. Sir? I said open a channel. It's time to end this. The Thunder Soul received the transmission while hunting the last Vorthak supply depot. Captain Han listened to Warprime Krulex's words without expression. Human Commander, I am Warprime Krulex of the Vorthak Confederacy. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. Han looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting to see how he would respond. The Thunder Soul arrived at Vorthak Prime like a dark moon. The planet below was beautiful in the way that most inhabited worlds were beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents dotted with cities. 8 billion Vorthak lived on the surface, most of them civilians who had never even heard of humans until the war began. Captain Wu Jin Han stood on the bridge and looked down at the world that had sent killers to murder human children. Part of him wanted to activate the Storm Protocol and erase the entire planet. It would be justice, it would be final, and it would send a message that no species would ever forget, but it would also make him a monster. Sir, said Intelligence, Officer Kyung-Soo Nam. We're receiving thousands of transmissions from the surface, surrender offers, peace proposals, requests for mercy. Any word from their government? The Confederacy Council has been dissolved, sir. The planet is under emergency civilian administration. They're asking for terms. Commander Mira Song looked up from her station. Sir, what are your intentions? Han was quiet for a long moment. Below them, 8 billion lives waited to see if humanity would choose mercy or vengeance. The choice would define what humans became in the galaxy. Open a channel to the planet. Channel open, sir. People of Vorthak Prime, this is Captain Wu Jin Han of the Earth vessel Thunder Soul. Your military forces attacked human civilians without warning or cause. They killed 50,000 innocent people, including children. On the planet below, every communication device carried his words. Vorthak families gathered around their screens waiting to hear their fate. Your Warprime Krulex and his officers will be tried for war crimes. Your military fleet has been destroyed. Your government has fallen. You are now under human protection. Protection, whispered Commander Song. Han continued his broadcast. The species that chose to make war on humans will now learn what human peace actually means. You will be relocated to suitable worlds under human supervision. You will rebuild your civilization under human law. And you will never again threaten any innocent species, he paused. This is not negotiable, but it is mercy. More mercy than you showed our children. The channel closed. On the planet below, 8 billion Vorthak began to understand that their world had changed forever. 6 months later, Ambassador Yoon-ji Shin stood in the Grand Assembly of the Elder Council. The massive chamber held representatives from 200 species. All of them were staring at her with a mixture of fear and respect. The question before this assembly, said Speaker Mithros, is how to integrate humanity into the existing galactic order. Yoon-ji smiled politely. Speaker Mithros, I believe you misunderstand the situation. Humanity is not seeking to integrate into the existing order. We are announcing the new order. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representative after representative stood to protest. Humans were newcomers to galactic politics. They had no right to dictate terms to ancient civilizations. Yoon-ji waited for the noise to die down. When it was quiet again, she activated a holographic display. The image showed the Thunder Soul battleship floating in space near the council station. This is the Thunder Soul. It is currently in orbit around this station. Its weapons are powered down, but they remain operational. Are you threatening this assembly? Demanded the Kildarian representative. No. I am explaining reality. Yunji touched a control, and the display changed. Now it showed the empty space where the Vorthak fleet had been destroyed. The Vorthak Confederacy believed they could attack human civilians without consequences. They learned otherwise. She changed the image again. This time it showed Vorthak refugees being relocated to supervised worlds. Their survivors now live under human protection. They are fed, housed, and safe. But they are also watched. They will never again have the opportunity to threaten innocent lives. "What does humanity want from the rest of us?" asked Speaker Mithros. "Simple. Human space is inviolate. Any attack on human civilians will result in immediate and total retaliation. In exchange, humanity will respect the sovereignty of all peaceful species. And if we refuse these terms?" Yunji looked around the chamber. "Then you can ask the Vorthak what refusal means." "Oh, wait. You can't. Their government no longer exists." The assembly was silent. Outside, the Thundersoul waited like a sleeping predator. Fleet Admiral Minho Che took command of the expanded human fleet from his flagship, the New Harmony. Unlike the Thundersoul, it was a ship built for peacetime. Diplomatic missions, humanitarian aid, trade protection. But even the New Harmony carried weapons that could level cities. "Admiral," reported his aide, "we've received requests for human protection from 12 species in the past month." "What kind of protection?" "The usual. Pirates, territorial disputes, aggressive neighbors. They want human ships to patrol their space." "And our response?" "We provide protection in exchange for favorable trade agreements and diplomatic recognition of our territorial claims." Minho nodded. It was a good arrangement. Humanity got what it wanted through the threat of force rather than the use of it. Much more efficient than actually fighting wars. "Any word from the Thundersoul?" "Captain Han is still refusing promotion and transfer orders. He says his job isn't finished." "What job? The Vorthak are defeated." "Unknown, sir. He won't explain." The Thundersoul patrolled the edge of human space like a guard dog. Captain Han had reduced his crew to a skeleton team of volunteers. Commander Song had transferred to a regular fleet assignment. Most of the original crew had requested new postings after the war ended. Only the core group remained. Han himself, Boram Yoon, Yejin Lim, and Kyung-Soo Nam. They called themselves the Watchers. Their job was to make sure no one forgot what happened when humans were threatened. "Sir," said Kyung-Soo, "we're receiving a distress call from the new Shanghai colony. They report unknown ships in their system." "Identification?" "Unknown species." "Sir, they're calling themselves the hegemony of Rix." Han looked at the tactical display. Another aggressive species looking for easy prey. They probably had no idea what had happened to the Vorthak. "Set course for New Shanghai. Best speed." "Yes, sir." The Thundersoul jumped to faster than light speed. Across the galaxy, automated. Systems detected the massive energy signature and updated their tracking databases. Governments that monitored human fleet movements noted the Thundersoul's destination and began preparing formal statements of non-involvement. The hegemony of Rix had never heard of humans. They were a young species, aggressive and expanding rapidly. When their scouts found the new Shanghai colony, they saw easy conquest. A single world, lightly defended, far from any major fleet bases. Their attack fleet was smaller than the Vorthak. Force had been only 20 ships, but they approached the human colony with the same arrogance that had doomed their predecessors. "Human settlement, this is Fleet Commander Zix of the hegemony of Rix. You will surrender your world immediately or face destruction." The colonial governor, Park Sung-min, had been warned about the approaching alien fleet. He also knew about the Thundersoul. His response was calm and confident. "Rix vessels, this is Governor Park of New Shanghai. You are hereby ordered to leave human space immediately. This is your only warning." Commander Zix laughed. "Human, you are in no position to give orders. Surrender or die." "As you wish." The Thundersoul appeared. Commander Zix had perhaps 3 seconds to register the massive human warship before his fleet ceased to exist. 20 ships became expanding clouds of plasma. The engagement lasted longer than usual because Captain Han chose to destroy them one by one rather than using area weapons. He wanted the galaxy to see exactly what happened to species that threatened humans. New Shanghai, this is Captain Han. The pest problem has been resolved. Thank you, Thundersoul. Governor Park sends his regards. The Thundersoul vanished back into faster-than-light travel. Behind it, 20 expanding debris clouds marked where another species had learned the lesson too late. News of the Rix fleet's destruction spread even faster than the Vorthak incident had. This time, there was no disbelief. The pattern was clear. Humans had moved beyond peace into something else entirely. Species that had been planning their own expansion into human space quietly canceled those plans. Trade routes that had been encroaching on human territory were rerouted. Governments that had been ignoring human diplomatic messages suddenly became very responsive. Dr. Hannah Kim worked at the Galactic Studies Institute on Earth. Her job was to monitor alien reactions to human policies. The data she collected painted a clear picture. Admiral Lee, sir, I think you should see this report. Jinwoo Lee took the data pad and read through Dr. Kim's findings. Charts showed alien fleet movements, trade patterns, and diplomatic communications. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. They're afraid of us. Yes, sir. Not just wary or respectful, actually afraid. Several species have relocated their home fleets specifically to avoid human patrol routes. The Zalarian Empire canceled a century-old expansion plan because it would bring them within 50 light-years of human space. Good. Fear will keep them honest. Sir, there's something else. We're detecting significant military buildups in remote systems. Species that were previously peaceful are suddenly building warships. Against each other? We don't think so, sir. The pattern suggests they're preparing for the possibility of human expansion. Admiral L.